Now the second thing is that the whole concept of the land in the Old Testament gets expanded in the New Testament to the whole earth. And in the past we've talked about this term progressive revelation. Now there's stuff you read in the Old Testament that when you get to the New Testament you're given more information about it and you understand it more clearly. Well, with the Israelites, they were told about the Promised Land. Now the Promised Land is actually quite a small bit of land. If you look at it on a map, look at Israel on a map, it's a very small bit of land. And you look over the thousands of years, all of God's people who've been putting their faith in God, and you would think, how does everyone fit in this small bit of land? Well, it's interesting, because if you look at Psalm 37:11, Psalm 37:11 says, "But the oppressed will possess the land and enjoy great prosperity." So you see that in King David's day, it's like, yes, we will have the land. The oppressed people will get the land. So there's this focus on the land. But then when you get to Jesus, right, 2,000 years ago, Jesus turns up, and in Matthew 5:5, he expands on what David has said. He says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." See what Jesus has done there? He's expanded it from the land, from a small strip of land on the east of the Mediterranean. He's expanded it now to the earth. He's like, now we're talking the whole earth, people. You're like, wow, that sounds pretty good, the whole earth. But still, I know when I was a kid, I used to think, how are we all going to fit on the earth? I think we would be, some of us up in the sky here, some of us there, you'd be a bloke beneath you like, hello, Fred. You know, how's it going to work? Well, when you get to Revelation 21, verse 1, at the end of the New Testament, John has this vision about the future, and he says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth." So there's going to be a new earth, and this new earth obviously is going to be made to cater for all of God's people. It's not going to be squashed, it's not going to be a council flat. And it says, "For the first heaven and earth has ceased to exist, and the sea existed no more." And we've talked about the whole sea thing again, sea symbolising chaos and the Spirit hovering over the waters at the beginning in the creation story, and then the waters in the flood, and then the waters when they crossed through the Red Sea and the waters destroyed the Egyptians. And it's saying at the end, there won't be any sea anymore. There's going to be no more chaos in life. I don't think it literally means there won't be water. It could mean that, but I think it's saying there won't be any chaos anymore. There's going to be a new earth. So this concept of the land that's promised to Abraham gets expanded to mean the whole earth. Now with the Israelites living as a nation, they actually broke their covenant. Remember, there's the blessing and the curses. And they actually broke their covenant and they got kicked out of the land. But it's okay for God's people, because what happens at the end is God makes a whole new earth. And he says, this is the land. And it's going to be absolutely wonderful. And the reason why we can be in this land is because of Jesus Christ, if we trust in his sacrifice. And in the meantime, we have the church. So obviously we don't have the new heavens and the new earth yet, but we do have the church. And it seems that Luke, in the Gospel of Luke, in the book of Acts, which was written by Luke, he seems to make a link between the church and the land in Deuteronomy. So check this out, right? In Deuteronomy 15:4, God said, "However, there should not be any poor among you, for the Lord will surely bless you in the land that he has given you as an inheritance." Now in the Septuagint, which is a Greek translation of the Old Testament, where it says poor there, it's the Greek word endeis. You don't really have to remember that, but just want to point out that same Greek word endeis is used in Acts 4:34 when Luke writes about the church. He says, "For there was no one needy," endeis, or there was no one poor among them, because those who were owners of land or houses were selling them and bringing the proceeds from the sales. So the idea is that in the Old Testament, God was giving them the land, and he's saying there won't be any poor people among you, because you're going to be blessed in the land. In the New Testament, the idea is you've got the church now. And the church is all over the world, all over the different continents of the world. So it's not restricted to one geographical patch of land. But now, there shouldn't be needy among you, because you've got Christians who can take care of one another in the church. So we look forward to the new heavens and new earth at the end, and in the meantime we enjoy the church. Now, third thing, the way this points to Christ is that Jesus' enemies in the earth or in the land will be destroyed at the end. Jesus' enemies in the earth or the land will be destroyed at the end. So, just like the Israelites went in with Joshua and they destroyed all the wicked people that were living there, some of these people who were sacrificing their children to gods, those people got judged, and in a similar way at the end. Revelation 19:15. Revelation 19:15, it says, it's talking about when Jesus comes back. From his mouth extends a sharp sword, so that with it he can strike the nations. You got the idea? Jesus coming back in at the end and striking the nations. He's going to destroy all his enemies in the land. So when we look at the judgment that happened in the land of Canaan back then, it should make us think of the terrible judgment that's going to happen at the end when Christ comes back. So what we're going to do now is just discuss 4 questions I've got here, 4 discussion questions. The first one is, think about the story of the Israelites refusing to enter the promised land. Is it enough to say that you trust in Jesus one day? If not, what do we have to do? And how can we practically help each other to do this? And you might want to look at Hebrews 3 verses 12 to 13, where it says, see to it, brothers and sisters, that none of you has an evil, unbelieving heart that forsakes the living God, but exhort one another each day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may become hardened by sin's deception. Second question, the Israelites grumbled a lot. Yeah, they grumbled a lot before they entered the promised land. Do you fall into the trap of grumbling? If so, how can we avoid this? Third question, one reason why the Israelites weren't supposed to let any Canaanites stay in the land was because the Canaanites might lead them astray. How do you think this applies today in the church? And I want to be very clear, the answer is not we go around killing people. Okay? I just want to get that clear straight off the bat. But there is a principle there, we've got to work out how do we apply that in the church today. Last question, if God's enemies are all going to be destroyed one day and not be allowed in heaven, how should we respond? What should be our attitude and what should be our actions?